you're in a really small town that seems
Fort Worth is
miles from it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Fort Worth, I think, is in great danger of wiping out all of that
Right.
before they realize it. You know,
Sure.
you've got the north side, you've got older houses.
Right.
Some, and I'm not saying that all of them. I think that the people that are doing really great work is the PAC show that I do donate to.
Okay.
Preservation is Art of the City.
Okay.
The preservation people that are here, like Samuels Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
some of Benbrook
Right.
is funky. There's a lot of Aledo that's still weird. And,
Right.
Azle,
Uh-huh.
Lake Worth.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people who have come from down, or that have come to visit me in the past 5 or 6 years, and we'll go for a drive or something, and they'll go, there's nothing like this in
Right.
Dallas.
Right.
But then I don't agree with that either, because there's a lot of pockets of Dallas that are fabulous places.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I
And I wouldn't have minded growing up in Dallas, and I'll say that for a lot of people who say mean things about Dallas. I think Dallas is fabulous. So there. Yeah.
Now I look at some of those images and it reminds me of my grandparents' generation.
Right.
I remember as a kid, my grandfather would go to. He would drive like 6 or 7 miles to go to the pharmacy on Main Street in Ennis, Texas. It still had a coffee shop in it, and they had it was like nickel coffee for the old timers, and they would meet there every morning
and
swap stories or just whatever. I mean, it just nothing was off topic. Right?
Have you ever seen the painting I did called Dominoes and Dairy Queen?
Yes.
Or Dairy Queen.
I don't know about the dominoes, but I know there's like a fly swatter.
There's a fly swatter.
Right.
Yeah. And that wasn't at a Dairy Queen. I just grew up with all the Dairy Queens, and they were always a staple in every little town that you went to in Texas. And those guys playing dominoes were my grandparents.
Yeah.
With their 42 parties.
Well,
and there would be, 50 people playing 42.
Absolutely.
And, my grandfather, he was like a magician to me, because all the dominoes would be put out, and he'd know what everybody had.
Oh, I know.
Just by looking at his hand. It was weird. He was weird.
Oh, I grew up in the same home. And it was funny. It was probably about 6 weeks ago. My kids are 10 and 12. And my wife and I sat them down and tried to teach them
how to
42.
Play dominoes? Or 42?
Yeah.
I still don't know how to play 42.
Yeah. And so, maybe we need to play 42 sometime. But, we're trying to teach because, I think, if I remember right, it's uniquely Texan. And it started because these Baptist schoolboys weren't allowed to play cards. But their parents would let them play with dominoes. And so they figured out a way to take a card game like spades and turn it into dominoes.
I didn't ever know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so...
and then you're talking about being in church. I mean, that was a staple of growing up here. The Baptist Church, the Church of Christ.
Right.
And the black churches. I would love to, there have been several black funerals that I went to that I wish that I'd taken a camera.
Right.
And I always had one with me, just to capture that, just before it goes away.
Yeah.
And maybe nobody cares about that, but I do.
No, I know. I remember going to a funeral one time, and there being the family had a photographer there, and it just wasn't sure, like, what I thought about it. I'm like, I'd never seen a photographer at a funeral before, and I wasn't sure what, I feel like a lot of people just kind of want to move past that event versus, commemorate, having something to commemorate there. And so...
well, maybe it was a famous person. Was it a famous person?
It was a friend of the family.
Mm.
Yeah. And so... I'm not sure. But
all my grandmothers used to take pictures of the corpse.
Oh, wow.
In the casket.
Yeah.
And it was always like, okay.
Well, I remember one time I was probably 6 years old, and my grandmother was babysitting me, and I always had this propensity for digging around in drawers and finding things that I wasn't. I know. Very curious, and I think I knocked over something, and like there was a picture frame that had multiple pictures behind it or something, and I came across a picture that was my mom's older brother that had died at a year's age, and they had never had any photos taken of him except when he was lying in repose, in his casket. And so, like,
this would have been your uncle?
Yeah, so it would have been my uncle who, he would have been the firstborn, so my mom never even met him. And so,
and back then they had a lot of miscarriages and things like that.
Right, and so he had gotten, I can't remember what type of fever. It was like a
scarlet fever, probably.
I think it was, and had passed, and it just, it's just, to think about the loss of a child is just, I'm not sure what, yeah.
Don't want to go there. Don't go there.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, the majority of the work that you do, so you do photography, and then you do paintings from the photography, for the most part.
Yes, with good reason too.
Right.
Because I used to do things from life, and it's very difficult for me having a live model in the room because you're picking up on their energy. Mm-hmm. I tend to want to socialize. I tend to want to, make them happy, make them relaxed, whatever, and it's just a lot of wasted energy, and you don't end up getting what you want, really. So yeah, the photographs are a lot easier to use, and I'm also, a lot of people probably don't think this, but I'm really pretty shy, and I really don't have a whole lot to say. It's like, I just want to. I'm interested in the image, and I'm interested in the physical part of it. I want to paint people. Right. And I want to paint them doing something. Not just a static portrait. I don't do those ever.
So I'm getting the impression that there is the Nancy Lamb that I'm sitting down with in her studio on her 4 acres, and that there's a different Nancy Lamb that, puts on a uniform and your glasses and the whole thing. And
doesn't everybody have like different parts of their personality? I mean, you should. If you don't, you're kind of a boring person, probably. And who doesn't like to get dressed up and go out and go to a party?
Do you feel like you take on a different persona when you go out there and do that?
No, not really. It's just a further extension of me. How about that?
Sounds great.
I think it's probably the best extension of me. And, like I said, who doesn't like to get dressed up, and who doesn't like to be in a party? Now, I can't stay there long. Maybe 30 minutes, an hour sometimes. Sometimes I'll stay 2 hours. Right. Maybe. But it's the energy, when you walk into a room full of people, man, and they're all drinking and having a good time. And if you don't soak up some of that, there's something wrong with you, right? And that's I'm looking for the good energy, right? So, cool. That's mostly why I like to go to parties. Weddings are really fun.
Okay.
Barbecues.
If that's mostly the reason, what's the other part?
The other part to go to a party?
Yeah.
The visual part of it. Okay. I usually don't drink. I don't drink. Right. I'm not a good drunk. I take that back. I'm an okay drunk. I'm not mean, but I do get sick, and and it's like it takes you days to get over that anymore. Right. So I don't want to do that. But yeah, the visual part of it, what people wear is something that I'm intrigued with. The fabrics and the styles and just the way people. It's not me putting on an act.
Right.
Only. There are plenty of other people that are, they bring their best game to a party. Right. So I want to see that.
Sure. And so, so talk about that. I mean, in Fort Worth has a. So this is a lot of the parties that you go to are. They look like Fort Worth society. Is that
some of them?
Yeah.
Those are usually the ones that are where they have the most interesting fabrics on.
Sure. So you like? So what do you enjoy painting? So because I'm hearing. I
enjoy painting skin.
Okay.
And I enjoy painting fabric.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Like silk.
So I would imagine you would be a fan of someone like Kehinde Wiley.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a million fan bases. Who else do I like? I love Eric Fischl.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Warhol was my big hero when I was growing up.
There are a couple of official shows going on around.
There are, and he was there. I was really sad.
Yeah, I got an email yesterday about a show of smaller pieces at William Campbell.
At William Campbell, the ones with the mylar.
Yeah,
love those. Yeah, but there's a million people I love, and sculpture. I do love sculpture,
sure.
and I did clay sculptures for a long time. All of the sculptures are gone. I mean, people bought them all,
right.
Or they got knocked off the wall. And there's a lot of them that I, haven't seen in a million years. But I did thousands of them. So
what were they like? Because I don't know if I've seen.
There's one over there. That's the first one that I've printed. Here's one of my monsters.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I used to do them in class with the kids.
Uh-huh.
And then, I just did extensions of that.
Sure.
And they were all gone. I mean, I had tons of shows with those.
Right.
And mostly with friends of mine, and they were really fun shows. They were really fun to do. So I'm just going to kind of revisit that part of my life.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about doing prints of. So you took good photography of a good number of them.
Yeah.
And so
I probably have like 1,000.
Whoa.
But I did thousands, is what I said a while ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I did them from like 1972 to 2004.
Wow.
So how many years is that? 25, 30, something like that.
Yeah. And so were the majority of them, that particular one I'm looking at is sort of mask-like. Were the majority of them along those lines?
A lot of them were mask, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that particular one was probably about this big, with the ears probably about this big. I did some really large ones, and at one point they got so big I couldn't lift them, and then I thought, well, I could have gotten an assistant or something, but I always painted and did commissions and all kinds of stuff in between.
Right.
I was doing a lot of different things at that time.
Sure.
But then when I started painting in oil, which was probably about 1997, oil is it's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a snob when it comes to oil.
You are.
Yeah.
An oil snob.
Yeah. I think
it's
most people who do,
in Texas.
Right, exactly. But no, I teach art. I teach painting at a high school.
Uh-huh.
And the state wants me to teach them, acrylic and oil and watercolor and.
But learning acrylic before you use oil is really beneficial because acrylic you have to be really quick,
right.
So you learn how to put it down fast, and that helps a lot later on.
And so, I feel like
Where do you teach?
I teach at Keller High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I've been I'm wrapping up my 4th year over there, and